Okay, trying to get YouTube hooked up again. One sec, it's working on it.
It says it's now streaming live.
Very good. Okay, that's what we want. All right. All right, I'm gonna launch this poll right now. Okay. Okay, Gloria Reyes is the president for 2021.
That's our emoji clapping. Congratulations, Gloria.
Congrats.
Congrats.
Thank you all.
No,
It's
thank you. You have stepped up in a lot of stuff. So thank you.
Thank you, Ananda. It's been a pleasure serving with you all, and I will continue to do my best in the upcoming school year. So thanks again for having confidence in my abilities and my leadership. I really do appreciate you all. All right. So next we will ask for nominations for vice president. Nikki?
I would like to nominate Ali Muldrow.
Great. Any other nominations? All right, Ali, would you accept the nomination?
I will accept the nomination. Thank you, Nikki.
Yep.
All right.
Right,
So
poll 2 coming at you. Ali Mandrol is the vice president.
yay.
Thanks so much, y'all. Gloria, I'm really excited to get to work more closely with you, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to be in a position of leadership with y'all. So thanks, y'all.
Congratulations, Ali.
Congrats.
Great. Okay, we'll move on to the next. Asking for nominations for treasurer. Ananda?
I'll nominate Savian.
Okay, any other nominations? All right, Savion, would you accept the nomination for treasurer?
I do. Thank you so much, Ananda.
Okay, poll coming. Savion Castro, treasurer.
All right, Savion will be our treasurer for 2021. Yay. Any remarks, Savion?
Thank you, and really looking forward to the work ahead, not just board colleagues and with administration and the whole district and all of our partners for the school district.
Great. Thank you. Next, taking nominations for clerk. Savion?
I'd like to nominate Nikki Vandermolen.
I accept the nomination. Thank you, Savia.
Great. Any other nominations for clerk? All right.
Poll coming. Nikki Vandermeulen, clerk.
Thank you
right,
guys very much. I'm glad to continue this role. I really like helping out and doing this, so I look forward to working with y'all.
great.
Congrats, Nikki.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Okay, secretary is filled by Kelly Rupel. So we will not do that one. And that
Well, you
is,
have to, if you could make a motion to approve Kelly Rupel as the secretary by acclamation.
okay, sorry, motion to elect Kelly Rupel as secretary by acclamation.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Okay, Nikki Vandermeeren was first. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
All right, all those,
Vote. Yep.
All
go ahead.
all those in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, motion passes. Kelly is our secretary for 2021 school year.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I would like to take a moment now to invite the rest of the staff to the meeting. So
Okay.
one moment. Thank
And
you.
Anika.
Yes. Okay. Jane, I just want to welcome you and the rest of the staff. Sorry about that little delay there, but I think we're getting caught up now. So I think everyone is here.
All right.
So you guys can go ahead and start when you're ready.
All right. Welcome, everyone. We just did our election of officers. I will continue to serve as president in another year. And we have Ali Muldrow, who will serve as our vice president. We have Savian Castro, who will serve as treasurer, and Nikki Vandermeulen, who will continue to serve as clerk. And then Kelly Rupel, our secretary. All right. So next on our agenda is approval of minutes. I move that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the regular meeting dated February 14th, 2020. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. Anika, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All those in favor? Say aye. with your hand
Aye.
Raised. Okay, any opposed? Okay, motion passes. News from around the district, president's announcements and reports. La Follette's Liliana Sims selected to be part of National Youth Response Movement. Liliana Sims of La Follette High School has been selected by Mikva Challenge to be the Wisconsin representative for the National Youth Response Movement team. This group of over 20 young people from across the country will create content on how COVID-19 is affecting their communities, provide their insight into possible solutions, and share experiences from the most vulnerable communities. The board recognizes and highly appreciates Liliana's contribution to the National Youth Response Movement that seeks solutions in these times of uncertainty. James Madison Memorial and La Follette High School theater programs receive Overture Center's Jerry Awards. Two of our high schools, Madison Memorial and La Follette High Schools, have received this year's Overture Center's Jerry Awards. The Jerry Awards are one of the Wisconsin's high school musical awards programs that encourages, recognizes, and honors excellence in high school musical theater. The production in more than 85 high schools and 30 counties were reviewed around the state, providing valuable feedback. The program elevates the importance of musical theater within high schools. The board congratulates all nominees in Madison Memorial and La Follette High School's theater programs that received this year's awards. Congratulations. Next, I just want to really take this moment to thank our staff for all the work that they've done these past couple months. We want to express our gratitude to our teachers and staff for all of your effort over the past several months in service of our children. We know that the past couple of months have been challenging. We are all still adjusting to a new reality. As we try to keep our students, staff, and city safe, we have experienced a significant impact to the way we work as well as countless other aspects of our lives. However, in the past couple of months, MMSD staff has also accomplished so much to be proud of. We, the board, see our teachers taking initiative to find new and creative ways to support and interact with our children on a daily basis. We see our administrative staff working day and night to address technology challenges to ensure all of our children can access remote learning opportunities, while our security staff are out delivering laptops to students. We are providing food for our students, and we continue to work in partnership with the city and county to support families in other ways. Your efforts will keep our school community strong despite this pandemic crisis. We have moved very quickly in a very short amount of time, so we want to thank you for your patience and understanding. But most importantly, for the love and the care that you invest in our students every day, even from afar. We know that our staff makes the MMSD community strong in the face of any challenge, and your unyielding dedication to our children has never been clearer. We look forward to this new phase of our work in collaboration with you. We also want to express a sincere thank you to Dr. Belmore for her compassionate leadership during this difficult time. Dr. Belmore has led our team of professionals to ensure that we use extraordinary measures in serving our children through virtual learning and prioritizing the needs of our students and families. We also want to acknowledge Dr. Herding for his leadership and consistent communication and collaboration with the board. And as always, thanks to Barb Osborne, who has been by our side through this all and has adjusted quickly with technology and moving our board meetings virtually. It is during these times of crisis where experience and leadership matter. And we as a community are very fortunate to have Dr. Belmore and her team leading us through this critical time. There is no doubt that we will get through this, and we will get through this together and stronger as a school district and as a community. So thank you again for all your hard work.
Thank you, Gloria. And I know I can say thank you on behalf of everyone for your kind words. And thank you, board, for working with us and supporting us all the way.
Thank you. And then we do not have a superintendent's report tonight.
We do not have a report tonight.
And so we'll move on to items that proceeded through the instruction work group. Ananda?
Just give me 1 minute, please. So in our last instructional group from April 6th, we have, I'm sorry. We have discussed policy 3540 in regards to the graduation requirements. We have also received an update about our grade K-5 literacy, kindergartners through grade 5 literacy. And Our next meeting will be May 4th, and we were going to be talking about Title IX updates and mandatory reporting, as well as receiving an update on the revisions of the behavior education plan. We had a really robust conversation, in particular around the policy change, and definitely we know that a lot of members of our community are really concerned about our literacy and have been sharing with us a lot of comments, suggestions, and opinions, and we certainly appreciate that. And please, this is a collaborative effort with our communities. Thank you, President Reyes.
Great, thank you. Okay, next we will move on to items that proceeded through the operations work group.
Thank you, Gloria. So I will quickly report out on some of the things we talked about, and then we're going to unveil our draft preliminary budget for the 2020-21 school year, and I'll invite Kelly to help me do that. So we met on April 13th, and we talked about a couple of items we're going to vote on tonight and a couple of items we'll be voting on down the road. Tonight, we are going to be voting on the Badger Rock Middle School contract. Back in January, we voted on the charter renewal for Badger Rock Middle School, and we reviewed the contract for this renewal this month, and we will be voting on it tonight. We're also going to be voting on revisions to policy 6244, which is our procurement policy. Specifically, we're voting on changes to dollar amounts that trigger different levels of approval for expenditures, as well as competitive bid requirements. There was mixed feedback from the board about these changes, but an overall understanding that the amounts in the policy should change over time. So again, we'll be voting on and discussing this tonight. The two items we talked about that we will be voting on in the future are the 2021 school year budget, and then talking about the referendum. So we have been working on the 2021 budget since September, and the overarching theme of our conversation on April 13th was that we are facing an unprecedented level of uncertainty in this year's budget. We talked about the impacts of COVID-19. We talked about the uncertainty of support coming from state and federal relief payments for COVID-19, and the need to remain flexible with our budget assumptions on both the revenue side and the spending side until we know more. We also furthered our conversation about strategic equity investments in the budget, and we agreed to take savings that has been generated by changes in our healthcare plan for our employees and hold on to it until we know more about both what's going on with COVID-19 funding from the government, as well as the possibility of a state budget repair bill. Attached to the materials for tonight's meetings and also on the MMSD website is our draft preliminary budget for 2020-21. And I want to thank Kelly and everybody on staff who has put a lot of time and effort into getting this budget ready. We will vote on this budget at the end of June, and we will implement it on July 1st, 2020. However, this budget does not include the effects of unbudgeted expenses associated with COVID-19. It's just too early for us to know all of those expenses at this point, which means there could be changes in the budget between our June vote and when we vote on our final tax levy in October. Again, because we'll be getting some hopefully state and federal aid, and also because we just don't know yet what the cost of this pandemic is for our district. We welcome community feedback on the draft preliminary budget. There are multiple ways you can give us feedback. If you go to the MMSD website, mmsd.org, you can click on the budget link on the homepage, and that will give you a form where you can submit written comments. You can also email the board directly with your comments on the budget. And there are several opportunities before board meetings in the next couple of months for you to provide spoken comments as well. We encourage and welcome comments from the public about our budget. As far as the referendum goes, our original plan was to vote on going to referendum in March and tonight present two different budgets. One budget would have been with a passing operating referendum and one budget would have been without a passing operating referendum. However, because of the disruption caused by the pandemic, we have put the referendum votes on hold. Therefore, we are only releasing one budget for 2021, which doesn't include any additional revenue from an operating referendum. The board will decide whether or not to go to referendum before the end of August. And if we do decide to place an operating referendum on the November ballot, we will prepare a second budget, which will reflect a passing referendum scenario. And on that note, I would like to invite Kelly to share a few important details in the 2021 draft preliminary budget.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Chris. Kelly Ruppel, Chief Financial Officer here. As Chris just mentioned, it's important to note that the budget in front of you does not include the current impacts that the COVID pandemic would have on this current school year, nor any projections for the 2021 budget. Those conversations are important, but there still remains a number of unknowns that until we have more information from the state, we just can't make those decisions. We will, of course, continue these discussions with the board as we get closer to the June preliminary vote and the October final vote on the budget. As Chris noted, this was a very tight budget year for MMSD. We have had to make a number of difficult decisions together. Last year, MMSD benefited from $8 million in revenue authority above and beyond the state mandated limits, thanks to the support of our local community through the 2016 operating referendum. This year, however, we no longer have any new revenue limit authority. Ultimately, the board was faced with approximately $8 million in budget reductions. Difficult choices were made to balance the budget in front of you tonight. These difficult decisions included reducing staffing levels, both at schools and central office, limiting our salary increases to only what this budget can afford, changing our health benefit plans for all staff, including doubling our employee percentage contributions, as well as reducing a number of central office department budgets as well. With that said, we are proud of the work that we did and that together the board and the administration put equity first. That's how we started our budget conversations in November, and we hold true to those values today. This budget funds a number of critical direct student supporting efforts aimed at students who need it the most, including investing in special education to support the district's unwavering commitment to a full inclusion model, expanding our proven behavioral health in schools program, as well as other mental health supports across the district, expansion of our successful welcoming schools curriculum at the elementary level, and increasing the number of students enrolled in the Early College STEM Academy, a program proven to increase academic achievement of our high school students that focused on closing opportunity gaps for our students of color and our female students. Under the assumed budgetary authority approved from the state in the 2019-21 biennium budget, this draft budget would then fund steps and lanes and provide for a modest 1% base wage increase. In all, this budget includes one of the smallest tax levy increases in 4 years at 2.9% and projects a mill rate decrease of 23 cents, bringing our mill rate down to $10.87. MMSD's expenditures are actually down almost 1% this year. And of that 2.9% tax levy increase, it's very important to note that only 0.4% is due to MMSD's spending decisions. The remaining 2.5% is entirely due to the state programming and state funding decisions, including programs like our 2X charters and the public open enrollment increase and our private school vouchers, all programs completely outside of our control, where we are expected to pass these costs on to the local taxpayer. A 0.4% increase in the tax levy is a far cry from the 1.8% increase in inflation or cost of living that the district faces. The state funding gap is clear and only potentially to be made worse by any additional reductions that the state might take in order to fund their own COVID-related challenges. We appreciate all the work board members have done in putting this budget together thus far. This budget is a strong example of teamwork between the administration and the board. We will continue to work together as we steer this budget through the uncertain times, moving towards an October final vote. Thank you all for your time, and I appreciate your feedback.
Thanks, Kelly. So the operations work group will next meet on May 11th, and our agenda will include a discussion about the draft preliminary budget, the employee handbook, and an update on the referenda.
Great, thanks, Chris, for that update, and Kelly. Next, we will move on to action items that proceeded through, wait, no, I'm sorry. I'm skipping something here.
Are board members able to see my screen, my board doc screen?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
thank you.
action items that proceeded through instruction work group held on April 6, 2020. So I move that the Board of Education approve the revisions to policy 3540, graduation requirements as set forth in the documents prepared for the regular meeting on April 27, 2020, which revisions will be effective immediately.
So moved.
Any discussion? Okay, Anika, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Hands raised. Okay, any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Is that a 7-0? It's just hard to get all of your faces in one view.
Yep, 7-0.
Thank you.
I'm having a hard time reading your screen, so I'm like going back to my screen because mine is bigger wording. Big
All
letters.
good.
So let's see here. Action items that proceeded through the operations work group held April 13th, 2020. We'll start with the welcoming schools early approval. I move that the Board of Education grant early approval of the 2020-2021 budget for $30,000 to support the district-wide implementation of the welcoming schools curriculum in order to facilitate timely ordering of long lead time materials and to accelerate necessary planning for summer programming.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Oh, I'm sorry, can I just interject here for a second?
Yeah.
So the language that you're using, Gloria, is actually moving that item, so you just need a second.
Yep.
Thank
I'm
you.
looking for a second.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Anika, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hand raised, so we can all see it. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, motion passes 7-0. Okay, proposed revisions to Board of Education Policy 6244, purchase and or contracted services limitations. I move that the Board of Education approve the proposed changes to Board of Education Policy 6244, purchase and or contracted services limitations as set forth in documents provided for the regular meeting dated April 27, 2020, effective immediately. Can I get a second?
Second.
Who is that?
Chris,
Okay. Discussion?
So I would like to propose an amendment to this motion. I am not comfortable with the $40,000 increase in the amount of a purchase that has to be in the floor for a purchase that has to be approved by the board. I would like to lower that amount. Just for the purpose of transparency, I think that we're always trying to toe the line between like not politicizing the small stuff, but also making sure that our decisions are transparent to the community. And for that reason, under the policy section of this policy, number 2, I would like to take out the added words, including all curricular learning materials, and change $40,000 to $30,000. Under procedure, number 3, I would like to change $40,000 to $30,000. So those would be my proposed revisions to, or that would be my amended version that I'm offering up of this policy.
Any other?
Chris, thank you so much for speaking to that. I also wanted to offer an amendment reducing the amount, just not as significantly. I think it's important that we're aware of inflation, and I think in consideration of the referendums and the amount of work we're asking our staff to do and prepare, I think it's really relevant that we as a board not fixate on kind of being overly invested in the minutia, but really stay kind of within the realm of the large scale. And obviously, looking at a $40,000 purchase is a relevant part of our work. And I agree that we could change the process around procurement. But I'm hoping to amend for us to shift 40,000 to 35,000. And I'm interested in what other board members think. And that decision is in part because I really trust and respect our leadership and our administration, and in part because I think it makes sense to keep up with the times and inflation.
Any other discussion on that?
I do.
Okay, so, Nikki, was that you?
I can see Ollie's point of the 35,000. I'm comfortable with that to a point. The one thing I'm not comfortable on is what I would need out of, which I like out of Chris's, is I want the line that removes the curricular. I think the curricular should be removed out of there. I think that needs to go to the board. And I think that's incredibly important. That's just my 2 cents. But procedurally, don't we have to vote on one amendment first and then go to the other? I don't know, so I'm asking.
Yeah, I didn't, thanks, Nikki, for that.
Right.
I did not get a formal amendment from Ollie. So we are discussing the Chris's amendment right now. So it looks like, who had something? Was that Ananda?
Yes, thank
It's
you,
hard.
President.
I cannot see everybody on the screen. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, go ahead, Ananda.
I'm also struggling between splitting my screen too, and I
Mhm.
have to figure it out best for next month. But I was hoping that Chris would repeat the full amendment if it's okay, because I was trying to see what's the current amendment and compare it to yours, and I'm trying to see what's the difference between what Ali's proposing.
I'd be happy to do that. So under policy, item number 2 would read, purchases in an amount less than $30,000 shall be governed by procedure. And then under procedure, I'm not going to read all of number 3.
Yeah,
Where
just
it
the-
says $40,000, it would change to $30,000 to match what's in the policy section. I do want to point out that the last time we changed the dollar amounts, this dollar amount was in 2016. And at that point in time, we raised it from 15,000 to 20,000. So I think going from $20,000 to $30,000 does, fall well within the rate of inflation, if not more, over the past 4 years. So it's not like we're not keeping up with inflation by going with $30,000.
And
Okay, so we're discussing the reducing to 30,000, and then Ali's proposing 35,000.
So
And-
I can read my formal amendment, if that's okay.
I think we have to listen to one of the,
Sherry,
We,
yeah, there you go. Can you help
we
us out?
need sure. So we need a vote on Chris's, and then if Ali wants to amend, then she can amend Chris's, but that would be the last amendment.
Okay, so we need a,
No,
I just want to ask Sherry, we need a
We need-
mover and a seconder for
second.
each amendment.
I second Chris's.
Okay.
I'd second both of them technically, if I could.
okay.
I mean,
So-
Ali hasn't made that.
Yeah, Ali has not made an amendment, so we already had a second on the amendment. We are in discussion. Oh, actually, no, we didn't. So Nikki, you amended Chris's, or you second Chris's amendment.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay, now, Sherry, you said we have to vote on this, or can Ali do an amendment off of Chris's?
Yes.
We have to vote on Chris's.
So I can amend too, right now.
You
Okay,
can amend, and then we need a second
Okay, so
Okay,
what
to
did?
discuss it.
I move to approve all proposed changes to the policy 6244, but amend the amount of purchase and or contract services that shall be approved by the board to those in excess of 35,000.
Nikki, are you second?
I might as well second both of them.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Oh, Savion?
Yeah, I was going to ask Sherry if we could add a policy to any purchase between $2 amounts. If all of those curricular purchases between $2 amounts can flow into the instructional work group, where if a board member or the board wants to have a conversation about it, that could happen.
I'm very happy.
I'm not understanding.
So if there's an item that, if there's a purchase that wants to be made between, $20,000 and $40,000, if, let's say, could those items be sent to the board, and, if a board member wants to have a conversation about that item, it can happen in the instruction work group. And if there is further objection, it could move from the instruction work group to the regular board meeting.
So it sounds to me like you want to make another amendment, but
Well, I was, before I do that, I was going to ask if is that legal?
sure, you could do that. But again, that would be a third amendment, and the
So,
rules.
He could offer a friendly amendment to Ali's.
Yeah.
If Ali accepts that.
I guess
to
before I do
process.
that, I'd be curious to hear other thoughts on that.
I don't quite understand. I think, so I just want to remind everybody that items that are on the consent agenda are not necessarily items that we have conversations about. I mean, we can ask some like simple questions, pull it, but we don't have significant conversations around it usually at a regularly scheduled board meeting. If there's
Yeah.
something on the consent agenda that you want to have an extensive conversation about, we can pull that and move. You can talk to the chairs and put those on the operations or instruction work group meetings where we can have extensive conversations about. Is that what you're referring to, Savion?
Yeah.
No?
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought, wait, sorry, I need a clarification to what you're saying, because Savion, I thought what you were proposing was to items that had to do with instruction that fall below 40,000,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, above 20,000, that between 20,000 and 40,000 or 20,000 or 30,000, whatever is going to be the new limit, that those items be moved to a committee. That they not necessarily are going to go to consent agenda, but they will go to committee for a potential conversation or clarification or update. So it would be similar to, sometimes we have items where they're not going to vote, but they're just come to the operations or to the instruction work group just for a conversation. And then if a particular board member that's an opportunity for all board members to understand those items, and if they have issues that they can bring to take it apart and bring to the board for further discussion. Is that what you're saying, Savian?
Yeah, and it'd be at the request of a board member to have that added in a work group.
So it wouldn't automatically.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what, okay. Jane?
Yeah, I just want to kind of talk a little bit about the whole reason that we're trying to do this is to make our work more efficient and effective so that we're not having long conversations about every single purchase. And I know that we've been trying to, make that more efficient. So I'm not sure if adding another layer would actually bring us to that or not. And maybe Lisa or Kelly could kind of step in and help us. Kelly?
Yeah, I appreciate kind of the idea here. My concern, in addition to what Jane just mentioned, is timing. So the purpose of consent is getting your approval so we can make the purchase immediately. If you were to move it to an operation work group, you would be delaying until the next operation work group and potentially even further, say that calendar was full. So I have a bit of a concern on the timing that process would do, in addition to it just being kind of more work. I had earlier suggested a potential use of the check registry. Savian, you could do what you were suggesting via the check registry, meaning all these things show up at the check registry for each board meeting. Just like anyone could pull an item from the check registry and ask a question in a regular board meeting. So I believe that transparency would still be there as part of that process already, but just wanted to put that out there as an idea.
Okay, so it looks like we got Chris has not spoke. Chris Goldman-Schmidt.
Yeah, thank you. I was thinking of the monetary level that we're looking at, about the 20 to 40. I was really curious, basically what falls on those consent agendas when you're talking about that level of monetary funds. And so I went back and looked at the past year of consent agendas, and it seemed to me, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but that the majority of those items that fall in that range are for service contracts, for programs for students, or for professional development for staff, or for consulting. The ones that aren't connected to building services or materials or technology. And so I guess, in looking at those, I'd say like half of them fell in that $20,000 to $30,000 range over the past year. And I don't know if the past year has been a typical year or not, but I just thought it might be helpful to look at, what would fall off of there if that limit was raised, to 30 or to 40.
Okay, it looks like we had Chris Carusi, Nikki, and then go back to Ali.
Yeah, I just want to respond to what Kelly said about using the check registry to provide transparency around curricular purchases. For board members that, I check the check registry pretty often, and I think that's fair, but I also think that the list of curricular purchases, while it's not necessarily a discussion item because it's in the consent agenda, is a place where the public can go to, quite frankly, see what we're teaching in our schools. And if we're reducing the amount of curriculum that's on there, I don't think it's fair to ask the public to go through our check registry to get a sense of what our curriculum is. So for that reason alone, I would argue to keep the curricular purchases the way that we manage them now, just for the sake of public transparency.
Okay, Nikki, and then Ali, and then we will
Just
figure
wanted,
out. where we're at.
just wanted to amplify what Chris said on the curricular learning materials. I'm okay with the amount that Ollie suggests, but I agree with Chris on the grounds of, I think the curricular materials should not be included in that. And that's my one thing that I would definitely agree with, because I'm sorry, but the curricular materials, I think we need that transparency now more than ever. Our community is saying we need some trust here, and we're in a very different time with COVID. Everyone is reading and scrutinizing absolutely everything. And I think I have nothing against the administration. I don't distrust anyone, but I don't want the rumors. I don't want the whispers. I don't want oh, they didn't release this. They didn't do that. And I just think it would make us look stronger, but that's just my 2 cents.
Okay, Ali?
Yeah, I really appreciate the conversation we're having, and also folks' commitment to transparency and awareness of our greater community. I think for us as a board, in terms of our duty and our fiduciary responsibility to the district, I think that we're expected to do a more in-depth, inquiry in terms of how resources are being used. And we're expected to be available to the community to explain the practices of the district. I also think that there are conversations that we've honed in on that haven't been the greatest use of our time and haven't been the greatest use of the community's time in terms of our priorities in serving the entire district. And so when you're talking about $440 million and you hone in on $22,000 item, we're not necessarily within the greatest realm of potential in terms of our ability to focus as a board. And so I hope that we're able to bring greater focus to our conversations and greater intentionality to our conversations. And I think that although it's nice to be able to thank contractors and it's nice to be able to acknowledge kind of detail for detail what we're doing, I think if anything, has taught us that we need to be flexible and agile, it's COVID. And I think that we, need folks to be able to respond quickly and effectively to large scale issues. And so I think this is about finding a good balance between, making sure that the administration can work as effectively and as efficiently as possible, while maintaining the integrity of how we communicate with the greater community about the details of operation as an organization. Thanks, y'all.
Okay, all right, so we got, Sherry, I'm gonna need your help. We got amendments, we got Ali amended the amount to 35. Is that correct, Ali? Yep. And Chris provided an amendment for 30. So we have to vote on Ali's amendment.
We have to vote on both.
Yes, but we can't do them at the same time. So we have to vote on.
Sorry, I was just saying Chris said it first. That's why I thought it was either way.
Yeah, so we have to vote. Sherry, which one? Does it matter which one we do first?
Chris's was first, so we should do Chris's first. Do you have it written as she stated it, or would you like her to restate it?
So you want to amend number 2, purchases less than 30,000. And number 3, again, 30,000, right? Go ahead and read it.
On policy number 2, I would strike the words including all curriculum materials so that statement reads purchases in an amount less than $30,000 shall be governed by procedure. And then in the procedure item number 3, I would change $40,000 to $30,000. And I'd be happy to read that first sentence of 3 if that helps.
Yeah, because I guess I don't have that in front of me. So what we're gonna do is make your motion and then we're gonna vote on it, your amendment, and we'll vote on that.
Okay, well, the motion's already been done, so I'll just read what we're
read it.
voting on again.
Yep.
Okay, so it was what I just read under policy item number 2. And then for procedure, any purchase and or contracted service in excess of $10,000 up to $30,000 may be made at the discretion of the superintendent and or his or her designee and shall be supported by at least 3 price quotations, by advertised bids, by a formal competitive solicitation, or by other evidence that the purchase or contracted service is being provided in a fiscally responsible manner, such as by meeting an exception set forth below.
Okay, can we get a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, show your hand so I can see them.
Anika.
I'm
Anika.
sorry, Nika, your advisory vote?
Nay.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand so I can see them. Okay, it looks like we got 3. Okay, any opposed, raise your hand. Okay, we got 4. Okay, motion fails.
No,
Four,
the amendment
three.
fails.
The amendment fails.
The amendment fails, sorry. Thanks, Nikki. Now we move on to Ollie's. Ollie, can you read your amendment?
I move to approve all of the proposed changes to the policy 6244, but amend the amount of purchases and or contracted services that shall be approved by the board to those in excess of $35,000.
Can I make an amendment at all?
Okay,
I just want to,
She
Sure.
could offer friendly.
go ahead.
that's what I was trying to
Go
do,
ahead.
was just to remove the curricular learning. The curricular learning materials would be removed. That's the only thing.
I'll
Right.
support that.
Sherry, can I
I would
ask
support that.
how that works?
The way it's supposed to work is that you've made your amendment. There is no other amendment to your amendment.
If it's a friendly,
She can accept, and therefore she can take on the new, as a friendly, she can accept that and she can revise her amendment.
Ollie, do you
And
accept?
then
the
it
friendly
has to
amendment?
go to another vote, for another second, correct?
So I just want to make sure I understand how the friendly amendment works. So Sherry, you're saying we would vote on my amendment, then we vote again on the friendly amendment?
No, you can't vote a third time on an amendment. Chris is
Okay.
the first amendment, you're the second amendment.
You
You
would-
can
you
choose
would-
if you'd like to accept Nikki's amendment and name it in your amendment and restate your amendment. However, if you choose not to do that, you don't have to.
Okay. Nikki, can you restate your amendment? And then Kelly Rupel, can you explain what that additional amendment would do, how that would work?
I would remove under section, I believe it's section 3, but it could be section 2. Chris is the expert, but I would remove the anything regarding curricular learning materials or activities from the list that wouldn't go to the board and would follow standard procedure that we already have.
Kelly, can you speak to that?
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as the curriculum materials, these are often individual books for classrooms and libraries. And they don't typically meet anywhere near even the $20,000 threshold. Right now, any curricular purchase item, it has to be on that list. So we're tracking $5 single book purchases on behalf of the board. So we're trying to get out of that granular level of way of working.
The reason I was suggesting it, if I may explain why I was suggesting it, was we were saying we want to include more culturally relevant materials. We don't get to see what materials we're accepting, and it doesn't have to go to us. How do we know what we're accepting, what materials we're rejecting that we could be accepting?
I
But
just,
that's
I just
my
don't think that the board should get into those details of curricular material. I mean, you guys, I mean, you have to recognize what our role is. Like, I'm not going to spend time looking over curriculum materials. I mean, if it's in an instruction work group and we have a broader discussion around this, but come on, we shouldn't be using the consent agenda to review or debate around curricular materials. We should set that agenda early on in instruction work group, or, I mean, but to use consent agenda to do that is just not appropriate. It's not, we shouldn't be using our time to do that. Asking specific questions, definitely, but questioning whether our staff is appropriately or not appropriately using what materials when. I just don't see the detail that we should have that detailed conversation in consent agenda at a regularly scheduled board meeting.
Yeah, so I think that there are some things that you're speaking to, Nikki, that make an incredible amount of sense in terms of we do want more inclusive curriculum and approaches to education, and we're working towards that collectively. Kelly, I very much appreciate you speaking to kind of some of the granular level, because I think looking at individual books or even individual purchase items, so maybe you do have a student who requires a very specialty piece of equipment. I'm going to use an Arjo as an example. You wouldn't necessarily want that to show up on the consent agenda because that could inappropriately identify a student's very specific need. So I think that we have the ability to work with our administration effectively and have really relevant conversations. But I think the additional friendly amendment might kind of erode some of our ability to focus on the task at hand as a board. So I saw Jane had something to say to speak to that.
Go ahead,
and
Jane.
then I would, yeah.
I just wanted to say, I didn't know if Lisa wanted to jump in here, but I do think that there are other discussions that we have that really guide the curriculum in a much broader way and in a way that is more impactful than necessarily looking at individual items that we purchase, because it's got to all fit together, and that's your job, is making sure that we're making it all fit together. Lisa, did you have anything to add to that?
I would just agree that we always follow a curriculum adoption process. The meetings are noticed. We have policy around curricular materials, policy around selection of those materials, and would just echo Kelly in that our staff and my office spends a good deal of time putting together the consent agenda and CLRM lists. And I just think it is an efficiency of time. I would rather prepare a presentation for folks around a curricular purchase than sort of debate a title of a book or, a pack of 10 lenses for a microscope on the CLRM list.
Ananda, and then we'll turn it back to Ali.
Lisa, I'm wondering if a compromise could go around, because I understand the comprehensive amount of work to prepare for board packet, but I'm wondering if there is some other work that could just go, maybe yearly to the instructional work group that will give, and it could be, what you already track, just be shared with, once a year to the committee. So for, and then for us to also have an opportunity to have a more, more conversation. Would you feel like that would be a compromise?
I think that, that is certainly something that we could discuss as we put together the yearly sort of scope and sequence for instructional work group if we wanted to move forward and assign that to one of the work group items if you all wanted to focus on a particular set of materials that the board had an interest in. I think we certainly could do that in the planning of that scope and sequence.
I think that the ask from the board to look at specifically around content of culturally relevant practices, but also inclusive practices to a school district that shows, really dismal numbers for both Black students and students with disabilities. I think it's very reasonable. So I'll love to, if I know Ali hasn't accepted or not, but if Ali does not accept, but I would love to take this on an advisement for the instruction work group to make sure that that gets baked in a yearly basis as a scoping sequence.
Ananda, I really appreciate that feedback, and I think that's an excellent utilization of work group. And I feel like we've just made a lot of progress in this conversation in terms of how we want to utilize consent agenda versus how we want to utilize a more expansive relationship to curriculum and instruction and that conversation. So thank you so much for your leadership, Ananda. And that makes me feel very confident that we can have both of these conversations. I'm sorry, you guys, my phone is like going off. My kids are slamming every door in my house right now. So I am going to ask that we vote on the original amendment. Thank you, Ananda, for giving us that avenue to have this conversation.
So Ali, can you
read it again?
Your amendment again, and then we'll vote.
Yes. All right. I move to approve all of the proposed changes to the policy 6244, but amend the amount of purchases and/or contract services that shall be approved by the board to those in excess of $35,000.
Is there a second? Ananda, second? Okay. Nika, your advisory vote? Aye, okay. All those in favor, show your hands. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we got 4. Any opposed? 3. All right, motion passes 4-3.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Thank you all. All right, so next is Badger Rock Middle School Charter School Contract. I move that the Board of Education approve a charter school contract between the Madison Metropolitan School District and Badger Rock Middle School for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2025. Can I get a second? Nikki, second? Okay,
I need to withdraw from this conversation because I have a conflict of interest. My employer has a formal research partnership with Rooted.
Great. Okay, thank you, Chris. Discussion? Ananda?
You're muted.
Thank you, Nikki. I have a couple of amendments for different parts of the contract, and I wanted to check with Sherry if I should make I'm hoping to make as separate amendments. Is it okay?
Well,
I have different parts of the contract that I would like to amend. And
okay, so
sorry, go ahead.
With this contract, as far as amendments, one, it would be difficult for us to do that because this is a negotiated contract and the other party is not present with us to negotiate. We could certainly consider those. But again, it would be difficult to vote on the amendments just because of the nature of the way this contract came to us today.
Can I amend that recommendation for language in a contract if it's approved by the other party, upon approval of the other party?
let's do this. Can you tell me exactly what you're talking about?
Yeah, thank you. So one item is item 9. Instead of the enrollment be for 120, is to suggest an enrollment be between 105 and 120. Another item is on item 10, 10.02, is to expand the attendance area to be all MMSD attendance area. That's also mentioned on item 22nd, 7412, regards to attendance area. Item of 5111 regarding transportation from 1.5 to 0.5. The school lives in a neighborhood with very insufficient sidewalks, and also where students have to cross a very busy Rimrock Road. And from 1.5 to 0.5. Item 17, to include that the hire of the principal be in collaboration with the board of Badger Rock, the charter. Yeah, and that's it.
Okay, so I'll address these one by one. Starting with the attendance area, there is no attendance area mentioned in the contract. All of that
Yes, there
language
is.
was removed.
No, I thought so too, but that it still shows the what we have received, at least, it still shows Senate
There are two-
boundaries.
There are 2 versions of the
There are two-
contract in the board
Right.
agenda. So you need to be looking at the, which
You're
one is
tripping me right now because
8.3.
there's too many screens for me to open at the same time.
The red line one, she,
no, there's one that says final. Sherry, where is it?
Item 8.3.
It would be helpful if we could put that up on the thingy, if we could.
Can you-
Um,
Thank you.
So the attendance area is the district. And that the line about, they can still present at Senate and those schools, but it's not restricted to that.
Can you point me to the item? I'm looking at 10 and I'm looking for, and I don't see where it shows.
When we get to 10, you'll notice none of that language is there.
Okay. All right. So there's no language around attendance anymore.
Not in attendance area, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Can we just
okay,
move
so
down?
next item, Sherry?
The transportation, that's in line with our transportation policy and how we transport other students. Kelly?
So it's been, Sherry, you can tell me if this is law or not, but it's at least standing practice that the board does not make a budgetary commitment via another vote. So moving the transportation from 1.5 to 5 is a budgetary commitment. My recommendation would be that, Ananda, you hold this until the June budget vote. And either we've built it in by then with discussions with you all, or you amend the budget and through the board member amendment process and get it into the budget kind of that way, I would recommend is the appropriate way to handle your recommendation.
Thank you.
Okay, so then.
Kelly, can I ask you a question about the enrollment number? Is that built into the budget as well? The 120?
In the long run, it is. In the short run, I mean, it just kind of ties back to the revenue number conversation. The board has this historically staffed Badger Rock associated with the number of students that are enrolled. So their projection was 100, so they're staffed at 100. If they get 125, they get staffed at 125. So when they enroll 125, it would be, it does have in the long-term effect, but in the short term, it's not the same kind of answer. That probably isn't the right answer.
And then Ananda, your last point with regard to the principal, that is a handbook issue, and we can't make changes to the handbook at this time.
So go ahead.
Jane,
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to have Tremaine step in here a little bit and talk about the enrollment as well. Tremaine, are you here?
Hi, everybody.
Eh.
So yeah, thanks for lifting this up, Ananda, especially as it relates to the 120. As you know, this was presented, the contract was presented to the board with the 120 in mind, as far as the 5-year commitment that was voted upon and approved by the Board of Education. Really, I'm concerned about the limitation of going below that, especially given that we have uplifted Badger Rock and the premise under the premise that it will provide experience, especially equitable experience, to students that are looking to achieve and work in a different manner in a way, and to place limitations on that, given that there is space for it, there is an opportunity for more students to be highly engaged in this type of programming. When we think about our equity work and specifically our racial equity work, we really focus highly on making sure that we continue to provide more access and not limit access. So I'm very vehemently in agreement that with the 120 that was originally in the contract stay firm, given that we do want to create as much access as possible to our students and not put limitations on what our students can experience at Badger Rock.
I appreciate that, Tremaine. I feel very similar about Badger Rock as I feel about Nostromondo. In Nostromondo for the last, oh my God, 5 years have had pretty consistent waiting list. And I'm very confident that Badger Rock is going to be at that place where there's waiting lists for students because of their appeal and because of what they're doing there. There's something very magical about what they're doing. What my stickler is, we have heard from them several times that if we add 20 more students, is that it's going to compromise their ability to teach well and to have the sort of the comprehensive way in which they teach. And then the district has neglected Badger Rock, for several years in the past, and I hate to have that continue. I would like to offer a range because I do want to send a message that, like, if they have capacity, if they can figure it out differently in the rooms with the use of the rooms and the outside classrooms, that they would accommodate that 120. But I cannot in good conscience say, yes, add a whole other classroom to the space. The space it's very small. I understand that, like, a lot of folks are thinking that the room can be used in different ways. I think that is a conversation to continue to be had over the next 5 years. What I don't want it to happen, what I don't want it to do is vote on a contract today that tells this school that have gone through so much, including perpetual neglect from the district, to add 20 more students, which is an entire classroom. I find that, irresponsible from my part.
Yes, so thank you for lifting that up. I think I want us to think farther than the physical space. The physical space of Badger Rock is is something that can definitely be worked with. And then it's not just thinking about 20 students in one class or one space. You're talking about divided over a number of spaces, or 4 to 5 spaces. So you're really literally talking about 4 to 5 per class. Again, as relative to opportunity and the comparison opportunity, we have lifted up ourselves as a place that does not deny access. And we have held firm to that. Even within Badger Rock's own equity statement, it speaks of belonging and welcoming and all, which are truly, I believe, they are committed to. So if we are going to uphold those commitments, then we need to make sure that we allow for the creativity in spaces and allowing for the full expansion to meet the full potential that Badger Rock has. To limit, I don't know a time where we should limit the potential of programming. And by putting that range, that is a limitation on programming.
Yeah, I think we're speaking about the same thing in different ways. I would never wanted to limit our potential, although I do remember us having this conversation when it was for a vote, and their renewal application, both their renewal application as well as their testimonies clearly stated that they wanted to be at 100. I am making a suggestion in my amendment is to put a range for 105 to 120.
Okay, great. Nikki?
My question is actually to rise up what Ananda said, amplify, I believe is the word, because we're in a pandemic. I don't think anyone can increase the number of students they're going to have in a pandemic. We don't even know where we're having classes, when we can have classes. So at least I would like to at least extend that period, because I don't think you can recruit people, to be honest. I'm not sure I would, if I were a parent, I'm not sure I would move anywhere right now, because I'm worried about my kids. I'm worried about the health. I'm worried about a lot of that. And there's a lot of uncertainty in this situation. Is there a way we can build it in somehow over time?
Great. Chris, and then we will get back to Ananda's amendments.
In reading the contract, I'm just trying to clarify. It looks to me like it gives Badger Rock 3 years to get up to that 120 student. It says by the beginning of 2023-24. Is that correct? So it's not like it has to happen next year with this contract. It gives it 3 years to do that. Is that correct?
You are correct. Yes, it's a 3-year phase in.
May I just add one thing?
Okay, go ahead, Nikki.
I was just hoping to add it to 4, because let's be honest, this year is virtually hard to recruit at this point, at this time of the year. But that's my opinion.
Okay. So we have Ananda's amendment, which I think all her amendments have been answered except for the enrollment. So Ananda, do you want?
And just to respond to Chris' comment, they had already on a previous contract that was already asked for increase in enrollment, right? So I'm sorry, Board President, what was the request?
So
to just
Ali,
restate?
Ali, did you have one more thing before we move on to? Okay, so your amendment, you based on of the contract, number 9, based on the approval of the other party, that we changed the enrollment to 105 to 120.
Correct.
Do we have a second? Okay, Nikki. Okay, any discussion? We've already had this discussion. Anika, your
Gloria, for me to write this, I need to know if it's just a blanket for the full 5 years. Are we saying that they have to be at that number by the 3rd or 4th year? Because that's the way the contract is currently written. So I need some clarity around that.
Would be by the 4th year.
Ananda?
Yeah, I mean, a range is a range. It's 105 to 120 within the 5 years. I also am very sensitive to what Nikki said. I think she's right on. I think I've said this in board meetings before. We have received at the state level, like a lot of school districts that are concerned with enrollment. I find it to be even more problematic. This school that largely attends to a community that's largely of Black and brown folks. A lot of immigrants live in this area. It's a school with the majority students of color, to also put another pressure to make sure that their enrollment don't decline, or that they make up to whatever enrollment that they're doing. So I am comfortable with the language around offering that range for them to be in this range for the next 5 years.
Okay, so 5 years, Sherry. You got your question answered. Ali?
Yeah, so I really appreciate folks' sensitivity to this current moment, and simultaneously, I think we want to be cautious about creating additional worry given kind of the unknown. So I think that this board has demonstrated a tremendous amount of support for all of our schools, Badger Rock included, and believes in Badger Rock's ability to serve more students. And I would hate for anyone to interpret this as us not thinking that Badger Rock can rise to the occasion, especially when they've demonstrated an ability to increase enrollment and to engage more and more students over the course of the years. So I think the range is a really respectful approach. And Nikki and Ananda, I want to thank you for speaking to it so well.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking if, you know, we hope, right? We do want them to increase enrollment to 120. That would be great. I think more access to our children. It's a lovely place to be. We want to be able to increase enrollment so that other kids, particularly, you know, our students of color, to enjoy such a great environment to learn. And so I think giving them 5 years, the duration of this contract to increase to 120 is appropriate. And I think the range is fine. I think, but we hope that that's our aim, right? Is the 120.
Yeah.
But I think I'm with Ananda and Nikki on that. So let's go ahead and vote. Sherry, you got the 5 year range of 105 to 120 upon the approval of the other party. Nikki did second that amendment. Let's take a vote. All those in favor, aye.
Anika.
Anika, I'm sorry, you raise your vote. I was doing so well.
Aye.
Okay.
Yeah.
All those in favor, aye. Okay.
Aye.
It looks like we got 6. We got everybody. And
one
Chris
abstaining.
had to recuse herself. Motion passes. All right. So where am I here? Okay. So now we're on to the consent agenda. Nikki, I haven't even read that. Do you have
I
something?
just wanted to tell you which one I wanted to pull out. Sorry, I got.
Okay. All right, let me read the motion. Okay. I move that the Board of Education adopt and approve all of the motions set forth in section 10 of the electronic agenda prepared for the April 27, 2020 regular school board meeting, exactly as said motions are written. By voting affirmatively on this motion, a board member expresses his or her affirmative vote on each of the motions consolidated hereby, subject to any express separations that have been made by any member of the school board. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, Ali seconded. Okay. All right, now we're on to separations. Nikki?
9.17.
9.17. Okay. Nanda?
9.12. I'm sorry. Let me just make sure that this is correct, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm just making sure. Yes, hotspots.
9.12, okay. Chris?
9.5 and 9.16.
9.5, 9.16. Okay, any others? Okay. All right. So we, am I
I'm
forgetting?
sorry, Gloria, did someone pull the items for Black Excellence?
Ollie, I
one of
pulled
them.
one. Yeah,
Chris, which one?
I pulled Umoja.
Okay. I just want to quickly not pull any of those items, but give some appreciation to Nichelle and the team for working to continue to pursue Black excellence during a pandemic and to do so with such gusto and creativity and flexibility. I deeply appreciate the work of you all and your
Barb,
dedication
could you split the
to our
screen again?
students.
Great.
Yeah, I just want to echo those comments and show appreciation for Nichelle and the think tank for coming up with innovative ways to engage students in learning during this time, because it's really important.
Nikki, do you want me to show the board docs agenda?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I got the right number. And I can't get it to load on my phone right now.
Okay, let's go ahead and approve the consent items that.
Oh, Gloria, one moment. Just want to make sure that we don't vote and then there's the wrong. What
The wrong
item?
number.
Yeah, what item were you looking for, Nikki? What was
I
talking
just
about?
want the Holzman one.
Yeah, I think you got it right.
Is that 9.17? Because I can't get it to load on my
Yeah, it's
phone.
9.1.7. You got it
Got it.
right.
Then we're good.
All right.
Okay,
Okay, so we have the separations. We're going to all those in favor of passing the items that were not separated on the consent agenda, raise your hand. Okay. Any opposed? All right. Motion passes. So all the consent items
Anika?
been approved. Anika, your advisory vote? Yeah.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now we move on to those separations, 9.9, let's start with 9.5.
Thanks, Gloria. So first of all, I want to express my incredible enthusiasm for this writing project. I'm really excited that we're going to be supporting it, and I really want to thank the team for bringing this forward. I also want to put out there that we're kind of evolving this Black Excellence Fund and our approach to it. And we're trying to do that during a pandemic, and I completely understand the need to just respond and move forward right now. But in the future, I think we need to have a conversation about when our Black Excellence projects need to go through the partnership process that we use for many of our other agreements. I'm uncertain if any of these Black Excellence projects or any of the ones we're going to do down the road would need to be treated through the partnership project and the different levels of approvals that are required therein. So I just wanted to put out there that down the road, I think we should look at when we apply the partnership process to Black Excellence projects.
Great, thanks. Ali?
Yeah, I want to recognize that Umoja was originally run by Malele, who was the first Black woman to serve on the school board and is a phenomenal leader in our community. And I'm tremendously grateful for a project that is so focused on literacy and so focused on elevating academic skills while also giving our young people a space to express themselves and be journalists during a pandemic, which is really a profound opportunity, because this is a sincerely, interesting moment in history, and our students get to be part of a special edition that captures some of what it felt like for them to go through this. So I am incredibly grateful for this project. Chris, I do want to speak to your comment about partnership, because I think partnership and clarity and MOAs are really important. And I say all that to say that I think we need multiple processes in terms of Black excellence. And I think that We have a lot of things that have worked with us in partnership to address the needs of students of color and Black students specifically. And I think what we're doing right now is looking at a range of possibilities and ways in which we can be flexible in working with the community. And so I agree that we might want to look to kind of what does, what are low intensity, high intensity levels of partnership through Black excellence. And I'm excited to flesh out that conversation, but I deeply appreciate the agility of Nichelle's approach at this time. And I can't express to you enough how grateful I am for the work that you've done to make sure that these resources are getting to our kids.
All right, great. Okay, so I move that the Board of Education adopt and approve 9.5. Anika, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor? Aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, next is 9.7.
9.17?
Oh, I thought it was 9. Is it 9.17? Or is it?
Correct, 9.17.
Sorry. Yep. Go ahead. 9.17.
I respect the fact that a playground is being added to Holzman. This is a very tough vote for me. I am torn between the disability community, which does not believe in separating students at all, and the educational community and the board. So in all due respect, that's why I'm voting no, but I am very respectful of what is going to be done.
Great. Thank you. All right. 9.17. I move that the Board of Education adopt and approve 9.17. Anika, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand. Okay. Any opposed? Nikki? Okay. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Gloria, who seconded that?
Okay, let's do that over.
Good, I got the vote, I just didn't get the
I
second.
move that the Board of Education adopt and approve 9.17.
I second Ananda.
Ananda,
Thank you.
second. Okay. Anika, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Raise your hand. Okay. Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes 6-1.
Thank you. 9.12.
Yep, 9.12.
So I wanted to bring, oh, TJ, you lit up. So maybe it's TJ
TJ,
to
love to have you.
talk about, yes, you like do not look like you're in Wisconsin. Please, can you talk a little bit about, like, I wanted to first commend you and your team that have really uplifted the technology gap that we have in our city. And I wanted to kind of get an opportunity for you to talk a little bit about this item and also give us an opportunity to show our appreciation to you and potentially have, like, a couple of other questions around what are you learning, what is, how are the ways we can continue to support, because I know that this item is only, kind of resolving a very emergency need, but it's not, speaking to the continuum of need that we're going to have. So thank you.
So thank you for that. So this item, we, at the beginning of this school closure, were able to survey some of our families and recognize that we had a large gap of students that did not have access to internet. What that equated to was about 1,900 different households across the district. So we are working to, at this point, to figure out how do we bridge that gap with our students. What this would allow us to do is to be able to provide hotspots for students to be able to use on their student issue devices, where the district will be able to control the data, support the data of families in the household at the same time. You are correct when you say, like, we understand, like, this is a temporary fix. However, it is a fix that I think that we can definitely learn from and begin to use long term. We know during this time there are a lot of internet service providers that are providing free Wi-Fi internet connection for families. However, one of the gaps that we are running into where families have outstanding debt to those corporations who are not lifting up on that stance. And so when you live in an apartment complex, it's not easy for you just to go to a different provider if that apartment complex has a contract with that company. So that becomes the only provider that you can use. So I'm hoping that we are able to help our families in order to get connected during this time.
Great. Nikki?
Yes, this is actually for Sherry. Sherry, is there any way we could go after them for bait and switch? Because basically they made a commitment to our students to provide this. There was no knowledge whatsoever about the outstanding bills.
TJ?
Yeah, can I just want to address it? Is so when we started communicating to families, we understood two things. That one, we didn't, because it's something important too. Originally, it was only for a 60-day period. But now that this is lasting for longer than 60 days, I have been in contact, particularly with Spectrum, because they service a lot of our families on what they plan on doing past those 60 days. So we're already in conversation asking them what do they plan on doing in order to support those families. Secondly, we've also been in conversation with them about how we could support those families. And while some of them are not willing to let up on if a family have an outstanding debt, they are willing to work with families like to have a payment plan. But what my conversation with them has been, if a family can't afford the original debt, then 9 times out of 10, they can't even afford to get on a payment plan to keep up with it. So I just want to be clear, like there have been some conversations with them on how they plan to support families moving forward.
Can you keep us updated on that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Ananda, did you have something else?
Chris, go ahead.
Chris, yeah.
TJ, I want to thank you for all of your work on this. I actually think this is an opportunity for us to think beyond this pandemic and actually start to look at the technology plan through a stronger equity lens. We're giving kids one-to-one devices, we're letting them take those devices home, but we still have kids who have to do their homework on their phones because they don't have internet. And I don't think any child in this district should have to do their homework on their phones. So I think this is an opportunity for us to really start to think more equitably about technology in the district and making sure everybody has access to internet to be able to do the work that happens in schools now.
And I just want to piggyback on that, Chris, to say the one thing that I am enjoying about this one is that we will own the devices now. So we are not returning these devices that we are purchasing. They become the property of MMSD. And so we have an opportunity to be able to do exactly that, determine how we support like the data moving forward after the original 6 months is up. So I do appreciate that comment and just know that it is a possibility. We just need to consider how we strategic in order to support those families.
Anika, did you have something? No? Okay, I thought I saw your hand. Ali, and then Mike.
TJ, I want to echo that we greatly appreciate your work and the work of the team in connecting young people to resources and courses online. I agree with my colleagues. I think that the internet should be a public utility. And I think that the school district's ability to facilitate that to a certain extent is pretty profound given the constraints of time that we're dealing with right now. But in the long run, I really hope that we're partnering with the city and the state to share, realistically, to share the cost of that, because it's an expensive endeavor and it is something that I think we should be in partnership in terms of providing for our entire community. So thank you so much for your work, and thank you so much for the comments of my colleagues.
So if I can just address that, I see Jane and Mike had their hands up too, but I just want to say that, Ali, please know that we have already been in constant conversations with the city. We've been in a number of conversations where we're trying to figure out how we do support families, not just it being a school barrier or not that it's just resting on the shoulder of the district, but how do we collaborate together to be able to do that? We believe that we might have a one way that we're going to do that shortly. We're working in partnership with the library and their Dream Bus, where we'll be able to probably put that in 1 or 2 of our neighborhoods on a traveling rotation. But again, that too in itself is a short-term problem solving piece, but please know that there's continued conversation already in the works. And how do we begin to think long range, and how do we partner together to do this work?
Jane?
I was just going to say, and Mike was probably going to talk to it too, we have been in conversations with the mayor and the Dane County executive, and the chancellor, just really kind of all knowing that this is our problem as a city and a community, and we really need to be working on it together. So I don't know if Mike had anything to add to that.
I was just gonna lift up that point, and also TJ raised it as well, the additional work that we're doing, and this is really a multifaceted approach, and very proud of our team and the work they're doing. So the city recognizes this, so I don't think I need to say more. Thank you so much. Good to see all of you tonight.
Yeah, thank you everyone that spoke, and thank you TJ for illustrating that picture for us. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about demographics. I know that all those numbers that we're pulling are estimates, but I'm wondering if you have a deeper story about who are the 1,900 households, where do they live, what are the racial, ethnic composition, or any other information that you may could share with us in regards to demographics.
So right now I can't break down the data that deep, but we can. I just want to say that it can be done. It's just as at this point in my fingertips, the data that I'm working for, I can give you by feeder patterns and by schools, like where the highest numbers of schools reside. But as far as like across, my data set don't go that far, but I can definitely work with Andrew and his team to provide us with that information because we've already started filtering if you need it for later.
So do you have information, a little bit of information about schools?
Yep.
Or neighborhoods?
Yep, I do. So, right, I don't have them. And again, and we'll make sure we get this to you. We also have a map where we can show you where across the city where all of the hotspots where families don't. So that can be shared with you later on. I'll make sure you get it. But we do have that identified at the same time, which we partner with the city as well. So for the most part, what we're looking at and what we're seeing, if you look at far as the East feeder pattern, of course, East High School is looking at one of the highest numbers, just as the high school itself. Elementary wise, if we're looking at East High School, the highest elementary is Mendota and the East feeder pattern. And then if I go to the Follett feeder pattern, the highest elementary, again, you're gonna have is Alice. And then La Follette right now is looking at about 74 families, but again, that high number is just in Alice. And the Memorial feeder pattern, we're looking at the highest number being that Stevens right now, again, which is the highest number in elementary. And our West feeder pattern, the highest number, just looking at elementary alone, you're looking at Leopold.
Okay, I think that makes a lot of sense for where our students of color live and where we have largest concentrations of apartment complex. So I really appreciate painting that picture. I also want to actually acknowledge that the money that is going to be supporting this, the purchase, are coming from multiple budgets, including yours. Do you have an estimate of what would be either the next ask from a financial, what would it look, if you could ask anything as far as the amount of money, what would be a money that would be able to go into this emergency in order to continue to close gaps around technology and also sustain the current efforts in a longer term? Yes,
so that's a hard question, and asking me for a number is like the worst thing because I'm extremely high. But I also think what we need to consider is just like the long term. I think I really believe if the numbers pan out as they should, providing families who've stated that they don't have devices, we will meet the needs of all of those families right now. Long term, I think the next act is just be what you and your colleagues are saying. How do we ensure that Wi-Fi is no longer an issue or a barrier? So we already have that first hurdle. We have the devices now. So now what we need to consider is, do we just re-up to provide the data for these plans throughout the school year, especially if we're back in school next year or even if we're not? So that becomes like, what is the next thing? And then we just need to begin to plan to understand what that number would be, Ananda.
Thank you. And I just wanted to confirm my thought when I both learned the amount of households that are going to be, that are currently in this gap, and the amount of hotspots we're going to be able to provide, was that we're still not going to be able to meet all the households. Is that correct?
So yes and no. So right now, what we have is that we have about 1,900 families who stated that they need to have access. We're able with this amendment here to purchase 1,840. So we're about 60 short. What we're hoping will happen, or if it will, is that some families might have already resolved the internet issue from when we first collected the data. So if that is the case, some of those 1,900s will probably fall off, but if not, then we will be looking at using the criteria in order to decide what families. So what we're going to spend our time doing over the next 2 weeks is verifying all of those families who stated that they did not have internet access, and ensure that we have enough to just supply all of our families. So that is our first step, and we're going to be doing that this week and next week.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to get. And I appreciate your comment, but I also think that it's a optimistic view, right? That things got resolved. Where my mind is going is that we actually may experience the opposite, right? Where if we stay in this space for longer, that people are not going to be able to sustain, paying things like basic, like rent and food and whatnot. That we may have a new wave of families that will be in the same space. And of course, our hope that it's not, that we'll continue, and that the state is going to support our families in our business for that not to happen. But I'm very concerned that we're going to have a new wave of families that are going to either default on their internet service or no longer be able to afford their internet services. So I'm trying to also think in those terms.
Yeah, agreed. And remember, even going back to my original statement of, if Spectrum does not allow for longer than 60 days, we might have additional families to see an increase. And again, depending on how long we're out for school.
So in other words, if we, sorry, Gloria, one more thing. If the number of households stay the same, and we still have this gap of 60 families, we're about somewhere between $15,000-$16,000 short, which it feels like not that much to ask. And I would love to partner with a nonprofit that would like to raise this money to close our gap, also understanding that this is a very immediate need.
So what I can do is I can make sure my follow-up is provide you a map, provide you with the cost for the gap of where we are right now. So I'll supply that through Lisa or Jane so that the board can get it.
Thank you so much, TJ.
Great, thank you. Great discussion. So I move that the Board of Education adopt and approve 9.12. Yeah.
I second.
Anika, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Aye, okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
9.16.
Yep.
Thanks, Gloria. So it's not every day that we get a student-led initiative on the consent agenda. So I just wanted to call that out with 9.16. This is the West High Green Club has raised money, and we've gotten matching funds in to put solar panels on West High, and that's amazing. So congratulations and thank you to the West High Green Club. Because of their leadership and initiative, West will reduce its reliance on carbon emitting energy and save the district a little bit of money on our energy bills. More importantly, this is a small but really important step in our commitment to 100% renewable energy by 2040. So I just want to thank the West High Green Club for helping us do our work.
Great, thank you. Great job, West High School. I move that the Board of Education adopt and approve 9.16. Okay, and I lost everybody, so that was Nikki second? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor?
Anika?
Anika, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Everybody's hands up because I can't see everybody at the same time anymore. Okay, any,
Gloria, are you having trouble seeing them because I'm sharing the agenda?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so
are
motion
you able to
passes.
see them now?
Yep. Motion
Okay, all
passes.
right.
7-0. All right, next item on the agenda is other reports to the board, City of Madison Education Committee.
So due to the safe at home order, all non-essential committees are being suspended for now. I will say that I have been in communication with Supervisor Beard and the city staff also in regards to the partnership between school district, city, and county, in particular in the theme that we're just discussing now about the closing the digital gap that we have in the city of Madison.
Great, thank you. Student Senate, Anika?
So the Student Senate candidates for next year for the elections were finalized on April 6th. Gordon Allen and Julia Amon will be running for the student representative on the board next year, and then I'm running for the president position. We're going to have a forum at the end of May, the week before the elections, to talk about the issues. And we also discussed mental health and had a Q&A format with members of the administration, which was really cool.
Great, thanks Anika, and good luck. MSCR, same thing?
Same thing. We are non-essential committee, so we did not meet.
Okay, great. Waiver of MMSD, other business, waiver of MMSD board policy 3540, graduation requirements. I move that the Board of Education waive for the graduating class of 2020, the provisions of policy 3450, graduation requirements, which requires that graduates have 1 humanities credit and 22 graduation credits, and allow the 2020 seniors who have obtained the 15 state required credits to graduate.
Second.
Second, Nikki, seconded. Discussion, Savion?
Oh, sorry, I was just raising my hand
Oh,
to vote in favor.
okay. Any discussion on this? All right, all those in favor, Anika, your advisory vote? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Next, I move that the Board of Education authorize the district to request a DPI waiver to the civics graduation requirements set forth in Wisconsin State Statute 118.33, Parents 1M, Parents A, 1 for seniors graduating in the 2019-2020 school year. Second, can I get a second? Chris Carusi, second it. Any discussion, Ananda? Did you have a discussion? Okay. All those in favor, aye. I'm sorry, Anika, your advisory vote? Aye, okay. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
DPI instructional hours waiver. I move that the Board of Education authorize the district to request a DPI waiver to the instructional hours requirements set forth in Wisconsin State Statute 121.02, Parents 1, Parents F, for the 2019-2020 school year. Can I get a second? Chris Carusi, second. Okay. Discussion. Anika, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. Raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Oh, the new business, we don't have anything. All right. Sad to say, but we're gonna be done before 9 o'clock.
That's wild.
That doesn't happen.
All right. It's been fun, you guys. Motion to adjourn?
So
Second.
moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Oh,
Nikki?
sorry, so moved.
Okay.
Second.
Amanda so moved, and Savion at the same time. Nikki second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anika.
Anika, your advisory vote. Aye. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Any
Thank
opposed?
you, everyone, and
We are adjourned. Thank you all.
welcome, Chris.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Barb.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Barb,
Thank you, Barb.
and TJ, for problem solving.
Bye-bye.
Peace out.